I have done an incredible amount of work on this book proposal, and there's just certain aspects of it that I'm stuck on, and I can't get across the finish lines. I think because it's so personal to me and the stakes are so high for myself. I've never worried about rejection before. Most of the time, I'm writing for clients. The books are sold and they're successful, and everything is fine, and I get hired again. But this time, it's just me, so.
Welcome to Partners in Sublime, where we explore the teachings of depth psychology and Vedic philosophy to achieve the highest levels of personal growth and self-actualization. Join me as we tap into the unconscious for intuitive guidance and creative direction. I'm your host, Shagun Chopra. Let's begin. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Partners in Sublime. Today we're going to talk about why we run into blocks when we are working on creative projects, particularly writer's block, which if you've written anything, you probably know what I'm talking about. And to break this topic down with me and the coaching session that demonstrates it, I have with me one of my favorite people, my former coach, Melanie Bates. I have so much to say about her, but all I'll say is that she's really changed my life for the good in many, many ways. And I'd love for you to get to know her a bit before we start tapping into some of that creative genius that rests within her brain. So over to you, Melanie. Can you give everybody a sense of how you arrived to this point in your life where personal development work is at the center of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the kind introduction. I just adore you. So thank you for that. Yeah, I how did I arrive? It was very windy, like they say, right? It's not a straight path. I started out, I think in 2009, helping spiritual thought leaders build their businesses, market courses. I worked for some really amazing people. And in that process, I did a coach training in 2013 and I really enjoyed that. And then I kind of ended up, I wasn't planning on helping people write books. Writing had always been a passion. Since I was like 7 years old, I would write stories of witches with carbuncles and, like I just loved writing. And I ended up working for this woman and she wrote a book and I just helped her with that process. I helped her to process and it did very well. It hit the New York Times bestseller list and then I was referred to other people and then they referred me, and so for basically a decade I was known as the book shaman. And that wasn't a title I gave myself. Actually, she gave that title to me. And I think it was because there was something much deeper than the book, right? It was a process. And I was very skeptical about that word. And I don't want to culturally appropriate or, anything like that. But people would work with me and they'd say, "Oh, you are." And I've since realized that I'm actually, I think it's a process. It's not me. It's the process, right? Like I'm not a shaman. It's a shamanic process of digging down and bringing up that unconscious material. So yeah, I did that for 8 or 9 years, and I've kind of switched paths to worry less about developmental editing and where's the book going to go and what's it going to do, how's it going to make its way in the world. And I found the Jungian work, the Jungian coaching work, which is beyond powerful, the most powerful thing I've ever experienced for myself as well. And yeah, the rest is kind of history, as they say.
Nice. I love how we fall into these things. It sounds like you fell into helping people write their books, even though you always had a passion for writing. I know you come from like an MFA type of background, so it was in your blood, it was in your education, it was very much what you were geared to do, and yet people, you know, put you in that role of not just helping them write, but helping them dig up stuff and cleanse themselves in a way of material they have never looked at. And, when I saw that, you were called the book shaman, I was like, they're exactly right, because it's not just writing, it's the transformation that happens as you take on the process of writing a book. And it sounds like even though writing started as the focus, it's the transformation part of it that interested you more. And now you don't just work with writers, right? You work with anybody who's interested in that level of deep transformation.
No, that's a great way to put it. I will say before, I think the work of Carl Jung has always been just maybe in the background for me. But I really think now I was like, I really thought it was about the book. I thought it was about the lists and the, accolades and all of those things. But there was something deeper happening because no one ever just thanked me for the book at the end. It was like, oh my gosh, I see the whole of my life and all of my patterns and all my stuff, and so I realized that the book isn't the point at all. It's the person writing the book, and that has become so crystal clear for me now. Like there's just no question. And I even tried, I think you know this about me, I tried to push that away, like, no, I'm not going to do that work anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to do the depth coaching, but it's like the mirepoix, isn't that the celery, onion, and it's always the base of every soup. Like it's just in me, and I'm not going to be able to let it go. So I'm owning it again. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And as someone who enjoys writing, I think some of our previous coaching sessions, every time we've talked about writing, I've loved seeing you come from not just the commitment to transformation, but all this experience in writing. Like it just shines through, whether you want it or not, whether you own it or not. That's who you've been, right? So it's like it's just become a part of you at this point. So I always appreciated that. And I think that's why I reached out to you for this topic, even though you're well capable of speaking to any kind of transformation at this point. But it's the writing as the gateway to opening up that box of unconscious riches is I think the one that I think of the most when I think of you. We're gonna listen to the session shortly, but before we do, I also wanted to ask, what is your focus now in your own personal life, in your own developmental journey? Are you working on a writing project and rediscovering yourself through it, or are you spending your days in different ways?
It's interesting that I wasn't expecting you to ask that. I love that you did. As you said, I got a master's degree, an MFA in writing, and I had written a novel in that program. So, that was almost a decade ago. And I have worked on revisions of that, and I've written an entirely new novel, a second novel. But I just came out 2 months ago writing publicly again after 9 years of not writing publicly at all. Because to be honest, the MFA process wasn't the most fun in terms of just rejection and judgment and the literary criticism world, and all the people who've read Faust once. I just wrote about this on Substack, actually. I just came out with it, and I felt very vulnerable. But this, my own journey of transformation, and I'm not there yet, right? It's a lifelong journey, but it's just like I don't really care what people think. I don't really want to belong to that world. I need to create, and so very passionate about that.
I'm glad you're writing publicly again, so more of us can see what's going on. Maybe we can transition now for everyone listening. As we always do on this podcast, we're now going to play a coaching session that already happened, that was recorded. We'll be playing a relatively large snippet of it because I think it shows the arc of how it unfolded. And then Melanie and I will see you on the other side as we break down what was going on for Linda, who's the person featured in this session. So Take a look, and I will see you on the other side. Conversations on Partners in Sublime are for educational purposes only and do not constitute medical or psychological advice or treatment. Please consult a licensed professional for any mental health concerns. Hi, Linda. Welcome.
Hello.
What's on your mind today?
Well, I am a professional journalist, I guess you could say, for many years and have never had any problems getting my work done, writing, and even getting through writer's block, which does happen occasionally over the years. I've been writing professionally since 1999, so that's a long time. But when it comes to writing my own book, and I have written a couple of books under my own name, this time is different for some reason, and I'm feeling very stuck about it. And I think there's a lot of probably unfounded fears, anxieties, and brain fog that are accompanying this particular project. And so I'm finding it very difficult to figure out strategies of getting unstuck.
Yeah. So you're in the middle of this creative project, and how far along are you? Like, are you stuck just to get started, or?
It's funny because this is what's sort of ironic to me is that it's a proposal. So it's a book proposal. So in the publishing world, when you're writing nonfiction, which is what this is, you generally write a book proposal and sell the book to a publisher based on a book proposal. So I have done an incredible amount of work on this book proposal, and there's just certain aspects of it that I'm stuck on and I can't get across the finish line. So that's what's even more irritating or confounding is that it's like, why just can't I just finish it, Get a lot of stuff done. I'm a multitasker. And there's just something about this. And I think because it's so personal to me, this is my theory, which, could be wrong, but I think because it's so personal to me and the stakes are so high for myself, not financially or anything like that, but just for myself. I've never worried about rejection before. Usually when I've written a book for a client, most of the time I'm writing for clients, the books are sold and they're successful and everything is fine and I get hired again. But this time it's just me, so.
Yeah. You mentioned fear and anxiety in the beginning. Is there fear and anxiety associated with revealing something personal in the book?
I think my fear is that I'm going to be so personal and so honest, and there's nothing bad. I mean, I'm trying to help people with what I'm writing, that it'll feel awful when somebody says no.
That pour your
I'll
heart so
take it,
much into
I'll
it.
take it personally, right? Which you should never do, both from a professional standpoint and also from a spiritual point of view. Having an attachment to an outcome is really why people suffer and have fear and that kind of thing. So I'm trying not to do that, but still in all, I feel just the brain fog, and I think that's almost like a symptom of my anxiety and fear. Like, why can't you figure out what to write next or how to organize this section? Those are the kind of problems that I'm having because I'm very close to the finish line. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Tell me about the books you wrote before. Did you experience something similar in those
Now,
instances?
the books that I've written before, well, most of the books, the majority of books I've written before have been with other people as a collaborator. So I'm always pulling things out of them and organizing it. I kind of visualize them in my head, and that's the problem with this one is I'm not really seeing it yet. Maybe the process is still ongoing. And they haven't been obviously about the same topic as this. Some of them have been related, but I do a lot of serious nonfiction. And then a couple of books that I've written under my own name, the stakes just weren't that high personally for me. Like it was research based, very neutral in a way. It's like journalism, it's like this is what it is. So I'm not really putting myself into it in the same way as this book, which is very personal and it's almost like a memoir of a certain period of my life. Yeah.
So in this book, you're like taking a stand. You don't have science to back
Definitely
it.
taking a stand. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
have
I
your
never
personal
thought about
experience
it
to
that
back
way,
it.
but you're right.
Okay. Yeah, I think when we take a stand, there's always that fear that people can find themselves really relating to our stand, or they can be like, I totally disagree with this. Like, there's no research paper behind you as
Right.
backing, right? It's you. So the rejection feels more personal.
Yes. And I can certainly get research to to bolster some of the assertions that I make about my experiences and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's still just me saying, here's what happened, and here's what I think about what happened. And you're right. I mean, there are people that probably will object to it on the face of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not so worried about them, but it does come into my mind that there might be people really love to get upset about things, and I hate to see that happen. I call it futuring in my head. I shouldn't be futuring because I really don't know what the future will bring.
Yeah. And if you're visualizing that you put this thing out there and people get really upset about it, you almost get canceled, not by
Yeah,
everyone, but by like a good chunk of people if they're like, we don't
right.
agree with this stance you're taking.
Yeah,
I think that's probably what is contributing to the fear, right? Because fear is a self preservation response, and these people probably matter to you. Sometimes it's absolute strangers that you don't know who they are, but like the amorphous other who will judge you. And sometimes it's people you can think of in your own life who would roll their eyes and be like, I can't believe you wrote that. Like, that is nonsense, or like, I don't agree
yes,
with it. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, my family, even though I'm not really saying anything about them, I mean, but I know that some people in my family are very judgmental, and I try not to be, but I know some of them are. And so, of course, we love them, so we worry about them. But I will say that I do feel like I'm past the point of needing anybody's approval.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you've through the process of writing, which is also such a transformative process. Bit by bit you shed layers of what is okay to reveal, and you're
Yes.
just hitting up on your next layer. I'm wondering if you were to imagine your worst fear of like how this could turn out. You finish this book proposal, it's as good as you can make it. And I don't know if the fear is being rejected by a publisher. It's more the end audience, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, I could probably get it published somewhere. Somebody would publish it. It may not be $1 million advance and Random House and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, if it just sort of went out there and just fell flat. Now, I know that there are people who've told me, spiritual counselor and whatever, well, look, if you just help one person, that's great. And it's a fine thought, but I worry that I do all that work and it would just come to naught. That would be sad for
Yeah.
me. And I think that so as a result, I feel very stuck. And when I sit down to revise, it's painful. It
Yeah.
like hurts my head and my heart.
Yeah, because you're carrying the weight of all these other people's expectations in your. I'm also thinking, and I don't know how many more books you want to publish, but like you have a long career, you have a
Right.
legacy to protect, right, in
Yeah.
some ways. So if this were your last book, or, the last before you're quote unquote canceled or written off, it also feels even heavier because then it not just falls flat on its own, but it undoes the work of some of the previous work as well, potentially.
That's right. Yeah. Now that I'm older, I am definitely at the later stages of my career. Now, I'm not saying this is it, but it might be. I mean, it's possible, and it's possible that I'll write other books.
I feel like you could try to get deeper into this fear and see what it's trying to show you, because a lot of times we just avoid going there. It's not fun for anyone, right? Who wants to sit alone with their fear? But I think it's big enough or amorphous enough that it has been getting in your way. You're not the type of person who procrastinates. Like you said, brain fog is kind of like the symptom layer.
Hmm.
But underneath that, something is driving that. Something is causing your brain to do that. So we can maybe explore that fear in a visualization. First, just begin by relaxing your body. Try to slow down your breath. And as much as you can, quieten the mind. Let's assume for this visualization that you're writing this proposal by hand. I'm pretty sure that's not how you do it in real life, but and you are really trying to put words on paper, but it's almost as if someone's gripped your hand and just won't let you. And this person or being gripping your hand is fear. It lives deep inside of you and it's invisible to everyone, including yourself sometimes. But today you are allowing your witness to see it. This figure that's holding your hand, ensuring that you don't write. I want you to get really clear on what this figure looks like. It may be nobody's face, it may be somebody you know. Just observe them. And when you have a good visual, you can talk to me and tell me.
I see my sister really, I think she's really the catalyst for the fear. I think my sister, I have two sisters, and one of them has tremendous anxiety, but as a result of that anxiety, she had become a very dominant force in the family, and it manifested itself toward me as a lot of anger, negativity, judgment, cynicism, and sarcasm, basically my whole life until I escaped. But it's sort of coming back now
Mhm.
as she going through some struggles of her own. But I realize now that she can't really do anything because we're all grown-ups, adults. So what could she really do to me? I don't know why I'm worried about people who can't really do anything to me. I mean, so what
Yeah.
if I'm canceled? I could still like pay my bills. Like what can really anybody do?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's also important that you realize that your sister is a person that's close to you, whose love and affection, and even just having a good relationship with her on some level matters to you, which is
It
why,
does, yeah.
yeah, which is why this has some power over you. And maybe just for a few minutes, and we are going to let this person come out in all their glory, and then after that we can decide what to do about it. But I think it's just lurking in your background, and we want to,
Hmm.
not be afraid of the monster in the closet, right? Let's bring
Yeah,
it out.
very
So,
strong. I mean, I think even my parents, to a certain degree, kind of were under her thumb. I had to block her from even my Substack because I'd written something and she made this very nasty comment. And I just realized, well, I guess she can't read these things. I just don't want that. So I actually had to block her from that, reading them,
yeah.
because I didn't want her to control what I was writing there. And that's nothing. I mean, man, what I'm saying on Substack is nothing compared to what I want to say in my book. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, her perception of you and how she expresses it is
yeah.
affecting
And her
your.
unvoiced expectations. So she has expectations, but she doesn't voice them.
Yeah. Let's keep going back to that image. You're trying to write. This figure's holding your hand back. It looks like your sister. What is she wearing? Is there anything about her that's further noticeable to you?
Yeah, she's wearing a white Oxford cloth shirt and she's wearing khakis and her hair's in a ponytail and she's got her glasses on and she's got a scowl on her face, which she normally does. And I mean, I think that she's always been very unhappy, and that was a role model for me, which was not a positive role model. A lot of behaviors that I've changed were based on what I saw her do, which was never corrected by my parents, especially when I was around her.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe to move forward, we can have a dialogue with your sister. I want you to pull up a chair next to you and tell your sister, fine, I'm not going to write a word for now. I just want to listen to you,
Hmm.
and invite her to sit down in that chair and allow her to express herself however she likes and simply receive.
I think she would say that she always had this obligation. She was on her own. She never got married, but she definitely lived on her own for a while. She took care of my parents when they got older. She took that upon herself to do. She felt like it was this obligation. Now she's taking care of my older sister, which she also feels is an obligation. And she says to me, well, what am I supposed to do? Leave them on their own? And I would say to her, well, yeah, because they're adults and they can take care of themselves or find someone aside from you to do it. She would say something nasty, which I can't even think of now, but she's got a very sharp tongue, a very quick, sarcastic wit that has a definite edge to it. Now, I think what I would just try to say is, well, I'm just sorry you feel that way, but I can't live like that.
How are you feeling in your body
I
as
mean, I
you're
feel very
walking?
tense just talking to her, talking about, just sort of imagining a conversation. I feel very uptight because it's just like very hard to talk about real things without her getting angry and lashing out or saying something nasty to put me in my place, sort of, so to speak, you know. That would be her general modus operandi, you know.
When you
And
say
I think,
tense, I imagine that you're like armoring up around her because she's
yeah,
throwing all these
yeah, I mean,
insults at you or potentially hurtful things.
yeah. And you just try to avoid having any kind of conversation that might lead to that. I'm not in the habit of giving people advice that they haven't asked for, so I'm not going to do that either. But it's uncomfortable for me. That's my problem, though. I have to somehow get her hand off my hand.
Yeah, and I think you've been trying to forcefully push the hand away, but it doesn't seem to lose its grip that way. So that's why we're,
Right.
trying this approach.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that's keeping me stuck. And I've tried this trick before where people say, well, just pretend you're your own client or something like that. And I try it. I mean, it's good advice on the face of it. But when you're talking about family matters that have to do with what I'm saying, there's no getting around it. Otherwise, people can see right through it and think, well, she's not telling us the whole story.
I'm just going to play your sister for a while. I'm going to summarize everything you've told me, and then once I finish, I want you to talk to me as if you're talking to your sister. You don't have to censor yourself. I'm not going to like get all sensitive about it. But here's what I'm saying to you as your sister. Linda, I don't want you writing this book. I don't want you talking about our family as if you're the only one who has the lens on how things happen in our family. I know a lot too. I've been the one to take care of our parents. I'm the one taking care of my sister. It's my family more than your family, and you don't get to control the narrative on how things went down.
Well, you could write your own book. I mean, nothing's stopping you, you know? I mean,
I'm going to continue. You think I have time to write a book? All my day is spent worrying about every single person in the family because no one else wants to play that role.
well, what is it that you would like me to do? You haven't told me yet what you want me to do.
I don't think anyone does anything for me ever anyway, so there's no point telling you.
Well, then, if you're not able to tell me what you think I should be doing or what you want me to do, then I'm just going to have to do what I think I should do.
And what do you think you should do?
Well, I feel like I want to finish this book. I think it can help people. I'm not saying anything bad about my family, and there's nothing that's any different than any other family anywhere in the world. And I'm only writing about things that affected me. I don't know how things affected you. I can only see how things played for me. And I think that's a lot of things that people can relate to.
We're going to continue this dialogue, but I will ask you to play both roles now going forward. So finish saying what you were saying, and then you're going to answer for your sister.
Well, you were very difficult to live with a lot of times. You were very sensitive to sounds, to noise, to movement, that anything could bother you, set you off. And that sort of taught me to be the same. And I was just a kid. I don't know really what I was responsible for growing up. And once I became an adult, I was out of the house making my own living. Nobody was supporting me except myself. If there was something that I got that you think I shouldn't have gotten, then you can tell me. And then I think my sister would say, you left the family, you escaped, and I wasn't able to. And I would say, well, that's a choice you made. You could have. You could have moved away. I don't know that mom and dad asked you to be their caretaker. You moved them into your house. You wanted it that way. I don't think they asked you to do that. And my sister Susan, you just enabled her in a way. You could have told her that she had to stand on her own 2 feet. But you didn't. I guess she would say that she felt like she was obligated to do it because she was a single woman and that was her job, but that's a self-imposed job. And then my sister would say something like, well, I don't know what to do. And I would say, well, you've gotten plenty of advice from people that you haven't taken. So I need to do what I need to do now.
Now, I'd like you to close the conversation by telling your sister what you're going to do about the book.
Well, I'm going to write the book. I'm going to be as sensitive as possible. I'm going to only include things that are relevant to the story that I'm telling about myself and my journey. And I'm not laying blame anyplace. I'm taking accountability with grief and loss, and that those are the topics that I'm really focused on. But I can't say that my family didn't have an impact on how my journey has unfolded. It has. So that's what I'm going to do. And if it hurts you, I'm sorry. Maybe there's something in there that can help you too.
If you feel that this conversation is now complete, I want you to close it symbolically. She showed up as a person dressed a certain way, pulling your hand back from writing. What would you like to morph her into? You can change the size, change the appearance, put her somewhere else, somewhere where she's not forgotten or goes away, but is okay for you to look at and still continue to do what you said just now.
Well, what I'd like to do, and I try to do this too, is just kind of envelop her with warm light and love, because I think she really needs that. I think she feels unloved, and I'd like to envelop her with that light.
Yeah. So imagine doing that and see if anything changes in the image.
Yeah, I see that she has her hair down, she's taken her glasses off. Maybe that white shirt has turned into a white dress, and she's just trying to see her with some light around her.
You can
So,
thank her for engaging in this dialogue with you.
yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And you, as the witness, can now step out of this imagination, come back to your physical body. You can take a deep breath, open your eyes.
That was an interesting exercise. Wow.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
Yeah, that was powerful. That was very intense. Yeah. I mean, I can see myself maybe sometime having a conversation like that with her
Hmm.
in real life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just recognizing how powerful she was, a person, and always thinking, like, what would she think of this has been useful.
Yeah, and I think that's why there is value in going close to your fear, because then you know what it's really about. And once we know it, then it's not this monster in the closet. We're like, oh, okay, I see you. And once I see you, I can then choose to respond.
Yeah.
And I have to put in a little warning note here. I'll probably put it in the show too when I record it. This type of work, when we do it with somebody who's a real person in our lives, actually alive, creates this contrast where in your mind, she has now let her hair down, has become more peaceful, wearing a white dress, and has softened. And then you might get on the phone with her 30 minutes later, and it's a totally different experience. And it can be disorienting. So
Mhm.
it would be best to think of her as a part of her that lives inside your mind versus her actually. Because our mind is made up of what what dad gave, what mom gave, what all our early influences, culture, all that gets added, right?
Yeah.
So it might be helpful to give this part of you a name that represents your internal inner sister,
Hmm.
but is not the same as your sister in waking life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Well, let's call her Louise.
Luis. Linda and Luis goes well together. So now that we've heard Luis out, what is something you're gonna do in life that might be different? And it doesn't even have to do with the book proposal.
Well, I think I'm going to be a little bit more forthcoming if there's some kind of conversation there. She starts out, you have to either tell me what you need me to do, and I'll let you know if I can do it. If I can't, I can't. I can't be with somebody who's aggressive anymore. I just can't. I can't be with somebody who's going to be nasty. I just can't do it. I love you, but I'm going to have to leave. I can't be in a situation like that, for my own mental health. I can't do it.
It sounds like you might be setting some boundaries.
Yeah. Healthy boundaries. I don't want to be in a situation where I feel like I'm just covered in negative energy, sarcastic cynicism, judgment. I just don't want to do that anymore. So I think I could be vocal about that and set that boundary.
Yeah, because
I
I think
think
what's
that,
stopping you from the proposal is things that you feel that you're not able to express, right? That's what's creating the block. But once you're forthcoming and you just say your
Yeah.
piece, even if it's not welcome, you would
Right.
feel
Or even
lighter.
if it's just to my, like, knowing that here is sort of like, oh, well, I can just put that aside because I know I'm not going to go there. I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't want to be yelled at on the phone. I'm just not going to do it.
Nice. It's always interesting that we start by looking at, oh, I really want to do this and I can't do this, and we end up at where our higher self is trying to direct us the whole
Hmm.
time,
Yeah.
but it catches your attention by giving you symptoms like brain fog. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for watching this session with Linda. There was so much going on there, so much to unpack, and I cannot wait to dive in with Melanie. So, first question I have for you, Melanie, is how different did this session look compared to? I'm sure you've had many people talk to you about writer's block in the past. Like, this is a flavor of it, and you've seen many others, or this is how often it starts and it ends up somewhere completely different.
It was such a rich session, and I felt this is so common. This is something I've heard many, many, many times before. It's interesting. She's a professional. I mean, she sounds like she knows sort of all the tips and tricks, if you will, of the writing world, and that she helps people write. So I do think it's interesting. This is my own stuff coming up, that even when you do have that level of skill, your own work can feel very different than that. Like developmentally editing my own work is a totally different ball game than doing someone else's, because I can take an eagle eye view of my work, and it's not as clear, right?
Yeah. And it's probably one of the big reasons that I have benefited from coaching, or people I know have benefited from coaching, because it is hard to take that eagle eye view for your life. It is hard to see your blind spots, that which is super obvious when you look at someone else's, a tangled ball of yarn, and you know exactly how to pull it apart, is looks to you like this mess that you can never get out of. And she's published herself, she's helped other people publish. She's been doing this since 1999, coming up on 3 decades of doing this work, and still not being able to figure out when something hits too close to home. And we see why, right, as the session unfolds, like what in her mind was stopping her.
So I have some hunches that I'd love to throw out if that's, appropriate here.
Yeah.
Here's one of my hunches. I feel, and I've said this for years, that you are not wearing the same hat when you're doing something like a book proposal than you are when you're creating. So think about that creation and being in that flow state where you are just throwing the clay on the table. You're allowing that unconscious material to come up without deciding which chapter it goes in and where it's going to live and how it's going to land. And you're in that creation phase, not in the conscious phase of worrying about all those details. And that was my hunch, was like, but there was a piece where it sounded like she was like, well, if it's not going to be accepted, I don't want to spend time on it. And I'm thinking about that process and about what I shared about my own experience with clients, like write the book for yourself first. Do you remember in grad school when you have your thesis statement and then you write the paper? You always end up changing your thesis statement after you write the paper because it's so much more clear. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced this. As much as I tell myself, no, I can think about it, like right here in my head, it's only when I start putting words down that it becomes clear to me what I'm actually trying to say. That to me is the superpower of writing. Even if nobody else reads it, like, doing that for yourself. And it is weird that the publishing world is designed almost upside down, where that, creative release of like figuring out what you want to say, that'll come from the messy process of writing. You kind of like put that aside and you do this like very structured writing ahead of time. And it's
So
not just a
city.
skill thing because she has the skill to do it, but it's just, it's the, yeah, it's like the creative force gets stifled. And it's probably a bit mad for being stifled, you know.
No, for sure. And think about like Joan Didion. She's like, I write to know how I feel, what I think, what I, like that process. I don't know. I think it's only in the nonfiction world. I mean, yes, you have to query when you're writing fiction, but you've written the book first, usually, like you have a
Yeah.
full draft. And nonfiction, yeah, a lot of people are like, I got to do the proposal first, but I have worked with quite a number of clients whose proposal was accepted, and they wrote a totally different book. They didn't follow their proposal at all. So there's all this pressure, like a pressure keg, being put on this proposal that, yeah, that's a big hunch I have around that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Logistically, I didn't know that was possible. I thought the publisher would hold you to what you said you were going to say, and no,
No,
okay,
no.
doesn't work that
But
way.
one of my clients wrote, it's a vastly different book, and literally it's a big three publisher. They were like, when we completed it, we don't really need to do any work to this. They didn't really have to edit, aside from a line edit. So no, they want to know that you have a huge audience, right? That you're going to sell your own book. That's the marketing plan. How are you going to sell your own book? That's typically how it goes.
Practical reality piece of it. That's why I asked her to assume. Let's assume you make the best proposal that you can make, and you're happy with it. Then what is your fear? And I think that's when she started talking about her family. And initially I think she was dismissing or downplaying that, but that's okay, they can think whatever. But when you do the active imagination, you realize that that fear is very big and bold in her mind, which is why I love this technique. And I will say here that what I did was like a mix of active imagination and chair work that we use
Yeah.
sometimes to just get people to emote and say what they really feel. We are so used to just censoring ourselves. I can't say this to this person. There's got to be some space where you can just be honest and just say it like it is. But that dialogue of expression aside, it was, she said in the end, it was surprising to her that it carried that much weight. Like her sister's voice in her head carried so much weight.
Yeah. I had a little curiosity if it was if her sister was the expression or if there was a voice that was even older. And I also was really curious if there was some shadow with the sister. I always see in images, like I can just hear and I see images and I was like, which roles are they playing? And I kind of, with the sister in the white robe, I was like, maybe the martyr. And this is just me throwing out, ideas, but I was like, maybe the martyr. And then, Linda is maybe the rebel who rejected it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that you're connecting them back to these archetypes because whenever I think my life gets like too much for me, I think about, oh, I'm living one of the many stories that people before me have lived. Like, there's no new script here. So
Yeah.
let's look back at that wisdom. Her sister absolutely does, from the description, sound like she has identified with being a martyr. Like, I didn't get to have a family. I took care of parents. I took care of our other sister. And Linda is right to point out that it was all on her own volition. She took on that identity. She wasn't asked to. And the shadow piece, I think that's very interesting. So it wasn't something I was thinking about in my head as the session was going on. I was just very, present with Linda. But when I heard it back just now, I took some notes, and she says that growing up, she was a kid, the sister was a bit older, and the sister was a role model. And she sees the sister be, these are some of the words I either, inferred or she used. The sister was mean, nasty, negative, sarcastic, cynical, judgy, very sensitive, and easy to set off. And Linda says that I unconsciously started doing the same thing, but I was just a kid, like I didn't know better, and my parents didn't intervene. So I'm guessing part of the rebellion is from like, I don't want to be like that. So I'm going to be all the opposite of all those things. I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to judge. Like at one point she says, I'm not in the habit of giving people advice. So when you look at that, you see, oh yeah, like everything about the sister is so triggering because this is stuff that she had unconsciously embodied and then was probably disgusted with herself, like, why am I like this? And then pushed away completely.
Yeah. Well, and just as a possibility only, can you hear in what you just said to me in her words how she might sound a little bit like the martyr too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like martyr, I could stretch it to that, but definitely a victim. Like, it wasn't my
Yeah,
fault.
yeah. We all have those archetypes. Like we're all, yeah, there's no judgment here. There's no like, but I could just hear a little bit of that, like even when we're rejecting and leaving. For myself personally, there's a sense of martyrdom in that for me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it sounds like part of the reason these like hard conversation that are happening in the imagination have not happened, I'm guessing, in real life, also fuels that narrative. Like, I don't give my sister unasked for advice. I don't, intervene in her life. I just let people do what they want to do. And there's a sense of like, my life is harder to have to be that way.
You know what else I really feel from this is I think it's so important that you not only just allow yourself to just throw the clay on the table and write that shitty first draft, as Anne Lamott calls it, right? That nobody can be in that vessel with you aside. I mean, you can have a guide, you can have someone like that. She does that for other people. But to just like flick her sister off her shoulder, flick like to write all of the things that maybe don't even make it in the final draft just to get them out. Carl Jung, I think honestly his ideas around creativity and art are some of the most powerful things I've ever seen. That this creative material that's coming up is the autonomous complex,
Yes.
right? Like and then when we're doing a book proposal first, like get that stuff out. I
Yeah.
feel so passionate about it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And for those listening, I always try to like, expand on the Jungian
Please,
vocabulary a little bit.
please.
But complex is like Melanie called this an autonomous complex. It's something that just wants to come through you without any negotiation with your conscious mind. And in situations when we are triggered, it can look like, we start acting like our angry mother or our possessive father or whatever it is that we're carrying, like just something inside us takes over. We are not really able to control it in the moment. In the version of this complex in the creative world, like people describe being in states of flow, like this was just written through me, like I just like got out of the way and did it. That is also a complex. And so many ancient texts in India, if you read the Sanskrit verses, I forget if they're at the start or in the end, but they'll always say something like, and so is written through me. So, like the Vedas, the
But it's
person
got
who
me
wrote them.
chills. I don't, yeah, that's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The person who wrote the Vedas did not say like I'm coming up with this. He said he is literally what we would call channeling, right, today. So there are things in her that she absolutely wants to say, and there's frustration in having to do the proposal instead. Like that's one thing, but she's not even right now admitting it to herself what those things are, because she said, well, I'm not going to say anything about the family that hasn't happened in any other family. Like that's a way of normalizing your experience, but not really pulling at the, oh, like, no, this was my specific thing and I'm gonna own it, even if it doesn't make it to the book, even if she's just journaling about it. Like, there is so much merit in doing that, just in and of itself, like letting that come through.
Yeah. I was looking for this quote and I can't find it, but this book, Jung on
Yeah.
Art,
Mm-hmm.
it's The Autonomy of the Creative Drive. And he talks about it wasn't Goethe that created Faust, it was Faust that created Goethe. That is so incredible to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of creating.
Yeah. No, I I totally agree. And in Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert gives this really cool example of this, was it a professor she had or just somebody, a poet,
It was the
who
poet who was gardening.
yeah,
Yeah.
who basically said that, oh, when the poem comes, I just have to drop everything and write it. And sometimes if I'm late, I catch the tail end of it as it's leaving. And then I write the poem backwards from last word all the way up to the
I
first word in
know.
the first stanza.
It gives me
And
such
I write,
chills.
and I read that and I was like, wow, if that's not autonomous and coming through, you know, then what is? And I've definitely experienced, and I have not like written anything professionally outside of my own dissertation and things, but I remember when I worked, was maybe my second job out of college. I was working in a consulting firm, and we were working day and night to make this huge, like, 100-slide proposal. And after a point, I was just getting so mad at being able to fit everything in these neat boxes. Sometimes you have a lot to say, and sometimes you have a little bit to say, but because it's like those good old PowerPoint days, you had to make everything very even. And so I remember just telling my, boss at the time, I was like, I just need a quick break. And I came to my room and I opened up my personal laptop and I just wrote this poem called Symmetry. Yeah, and it was all about this frustration. I was done very quick. I don't even know like how quick. And I went back and worked on it. And then a long time after I opened that poem, and I was like, oh, yeah, like that happened at that time. Just like you have to like run to the bathroom sometimes. It's almost like, that level of urgency. Yeah.
I feel that way when you're in that creative flow, and it takes me a while to get there. Like I'm not just in it, but I will go back and read something and be not like it's all that great, but I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I wrote that." Like in another space, right? That's the space I'm talking about that is not the space of the book proposal at all.
What you're saying is so relevant for anybody who's doing anything creative. Do the thing first, all the recruitment of the thinking function that you need to package it, like do that part later, right? Or do that part separately. Do not expect that the state you need to get into to produce the work itself will be the same as the state you need to get into to market it. And even after making that distinction, if either of those things you're still feeling blocked, maybe if you're getting stuck with the marketing, maybe you have a fear of being seen, and maybe if you're getting stuck in the creativity, maybe you're trying too hard to think and not get out of the way for the thing to get created. I always imagine the universe is just bursting with this creative energy. Everything's getting created all the time, all the people and the places and the trees and the mountains. And so obviously little works of art or projects are going to get created through us. Just like the creation never stops in the universe. Like, who are we to stop it and being like, it's going to happen at 6 p.m. on this day? And I do agree that there's a work ethic in showing up
Oh, yeah.
and honoring, yeah, whatever comes out. But
It's our
you
ego that
can.
sits us down at the keyboard and gets us going. You just said
Mhm.
something really, really crucial to me is that it's one thing to create, it's another thing to be seen. And while she did say at the beginning, she said, I know how important it is to be unattached, there's still like that being seen and how it's going to be perceived. I am going to say something that I've said for years that it's a hill I'll die on. There is no such thing as writer's block. Writer's block is just thinking about who's going to read this? What are they going to think? How's it going to be perceived? And I think that that's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When she said people are so judgy these days and get offended easily,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's two things are at play. It's like you don't want to be judged, right? You have that fear of like being seen and not being accepted for who you are, how you think, what you have to say. But also you're not a judgmental person. So others are wrong for being this judgy. Others are wrong for saying what's on their mind when they read your Substack. So they need to be blocked so you're not triggered. And I totally support her choice. Like,
Oh, yeah.
do whatever it takes, to make sure that you stay authentic to your creativity.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if,
and we all feel that way. Like, I just want, if she listens to this, like, I want her to know, like, we all feel that way. That goes to our very sense in our body that we don't want to be rejected or kicked out of the cave. I mean, that's a deep one, right? Like,
yeah,
it's normal. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And I think instead of admitting to ourselves that fear of social rejection and isolation that is, like you said, primal in all of us, that instead of admitting to ourselves that that is what is driving our writer's block, we prefer to make it about something else because it's often hard to admit that we're afraid because society just teaches us not to be free and fearless, and but all the conditioning we get is like, but do it this way so things are good. So it's like you have to conquer all these fears and look really calm while doing it. It's like we get these contradictory messages.
When cancel culture is so real, like, and sometimes I just think, oh, please cancel me. Like, there's this old saying, like, you can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and somebody still doesn't like peaches. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
but cancel culture is brutal. Like, there, I don't see that being very Jungian at all. Like, there is no tension of the opposites there. It's just, this is it and this is not.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I use the word canceled because it like evokes that response, right? Like it's like, yeah, I'm just going to be banished completely. And canceled also, like you said, it doesn't hold the tension of the opposites the way Jung has always asked us to hold, because that's where our growth lies. Cancelled is very binary, it's very scary. So I'm not surprised that Linda, with all her legacy, is afraid to get cancelled. Imagine putting 30 years of your life into something only to be written off and just brushed aside because, somebody didn't like what she said.
Yeah, yeah. What I also hear kind of as a thread, like almost weaving underneath of this, is like, this is very meaningful to me. This is kind of, it almost feels like in legacy work territory. So even though you don't want to be attached, it's like, this is my baby. Ironically, I just wrote about this in Substack, like, because like I said, my MFA process was very painful. And it's like, they said, your baby's ugly. And I wanted to belong so badly to this society of artists, and it was the most devastating thing ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, one final question to close off this discussion. Where do you think Linda should go from here?
It's a very practical suggestion. I would just sit down and throw the clay on the table with nobody there on her shoulder, with nobody in the room. Write about the threesome, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just get it out, and then you can figure out what you're going to keep. She probably well knows how to revise, and then she can decide what goes in the book proposal. And if you're in a flow state, you can write a book in 60, 90 days, 1,000 words a day. She likely knows all this. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
just get it out.
yeah. But I think even
Maybe
when you know it really well, you need a reminder when it comes to your own work. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and maybe just exploring if there's any shadow with her sister, and where that might live in her, you know.
Because I think creative projects require energy, right? And when we do shadow work, we really free up that locked up unconscious energy that can then be directed in service of the work. So I think that to me has been the best part of shadow work. As a tired, sleep-deprived mom of 2 kids, anytime I can unlock some energy that my psyche is just holding on to, I feel so good.
I
Yeah.
love that because then your libido, your life force energy can flow towards your creation. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll wrap it up here. Thanks to everyone who listened. I hope this inspired you to let your creativity take charge, flow through you, and to always go back to the drawing board and do inner work if you think you're in writer's block. There's always more to uncover in the unconscious, more energy to free up, to dedicate to your creative projects, and just more oomph to add to whatever it is that you're gonna say or do or create. So, thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thank you for being my partner in Sublime today. I hope you enjoyed diving into the unconscious with me. To ask a question or get coached on the show, visit shagunchopra.com/ask or click the link below. See you next time.